Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Hope your mornings are going great. We have a fantastic session here for you, Resilience and Results, Why Hearst Treats FinOps Like a Triathlon. So please give a warm welcome for Willy Sennott from Vega and Carolyn Zakrzewski from Hearst.
She needs applause because she was brave enough to actually try and pronounce the last name.
Well, Willy, I'm up here, and it reminds me a lot of what it was like, and the feeling I had when I did my first triathlon. I was nervous as all get out, and I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? So my journey really started here at Hearst some 5 years ago. And as you can see, this is a building. This is our corporate office in New York City. It's a fabulous building just because of its uniqueness. It was built in 1920. It was built on top of a 1928 building from our magazines division. So we go way back when it comes to Hearst. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. As you can see, I have two passions in my life. I have my data life, and then I have my life as an endurance athlete. And these two really do overlap. They parallel as well as intersect in many cases. I've had a lot of experience within the cloud environment, but I correlate a lot of what I do in the cloud and how I relate that really to my endurance athlete. But I owe a lot of it to this man standing next to me, who kind of helped me kickstart and kind of helped me direct where I am in this whole FinOps world.
And I'm going to harken back to the opening session when JR finished with, there are no runners in FinOps. May be true, but in life, let me tell you, that is a runner.
Thank you. So what is Hearst? I don't know if many of you know it. You may not know actually Hearst as the name, but you may recognize a lot of our companies in and of itself. We are really no Hearst as an entity, but we're made up of about 400, close to 400 companies in and of itself. Lots of different divisions that all make up and help, okay, again, go back to that nervousness thing.
You got it.
Of just being able to identify everything that's associated with all these different practices. As you can see, as it continues on, we have a lot of things that we have to deal with within our FinOps practice because it's not just one entity that we have to build upon, but it is all about all of the different businesses and how we can adapt our practice to what is offered them, because we have to deal with PCI compliance, we have to deal with financial governance, we have to deal with credit card management. There's a lot of things that we have to incorporate within our FinOps practice and adapt to those different entities in and of itself.
And I will say, you know, for those of you that are FinOps practitioners, right, if you've had a variety of different experiences, whether you are working for an entity that is relatively single-threaded, or you're working for an entity like Hearst that has been built over the years through acquisition and the disparate skill sets and relationships, being able to navigate that, Carolyn and her team do incredibly well.
So my journey started about 5 years ago. I started at an MSP. That's where I got introduced to Hearst in and of itself. But there was challenges with that. I think you can click in there. One more, there we go. Really what it is that when I was at the MSP, I was really about just kind of providing insight to these businesses. It was a way for Hearst to really kick off our FinOps practice and be able to get it to market in a timely fashion and be able to show actual results faster. And that's why we, instilled the corporation of an MSP tool that allowed us to kind of get that started. But then I moved it into Hearst in and of itself. So about a year and a half ago, I actually took this whole practice and now we moved it internal to our Hearst identity because leadership saw that there was value to what we had to offer and then decided, let's reinvest in this. Instead of paying an outside vendor, we brought it in-house so that we can actually build upon it and be able to allow us to look at other aspects. But there was a lot of, we'll say, issues and concerns that we had when we first started out with that MSP. We had a lot of data, great data, but it was all built into large Excel files. I know, taboo word. And it was hard for us to really communicate it. It was a snapshot in time, and those Excel files didn't allow the businesses to really see trends in a more live, granular data. As well as we have a chargeback system. We have 400 companies. We have to charge all this cloud spend back to them. And that is hard because our charging system and how our Excel files were working didn't always match numbers. So we lost a lot of traction of people not trusting what I was giving them. And then lastly, I was a contractor. You know, how do you as a contractor go, this business is looking at me going, you're giving me a recommendation to do this? Who are you to tell me what to do? And that is a hard thing to accomplish.
Real quick, Carolyn.
Yeah.
I was walking by a presentation yesterday, and I saw a lead on one of the slides, and it was talking about how the messenger is oftentimes as important or more important than the message. And I think that resonates with what it is you're trying to get across.
Because then I moved inside of Hearst. I'm now behind the walls. I'm behind the curtains. I was able to now actually build upon the relationship I had. So all those people who didn't trust me now had to go, maybe she has something here. And that was where I was able to kind of evolve our practice in and of itself. I was able to use a lot of things, as you'll see later on, and as we kind of move. I was able to kind of dip my toe in that pool that first time and get that stroke going and being able to accomplish all of those things that kind of helped me start this whole practice within Hearst.
Oops, sorry.
So within our practice itself, we're all part of the what we call the Cloud Centers of Excellence. But the FinOps practice in and of itself is the core. It is the center of what we have to offer within that. Because of our leadership, they have a lot of faith in what we do and the service that we offer. They constantly are, I think you're on the right, there you go. They're constantly in a circle of evolving. So we are part of that economics aspect, but we're also part of that enablement as well as government, because they do overlap a lot, especially as you start to build out that practice. And what really our Cloud Center of Excellence offers is to be able to continue to allow us to expand. And I have some fabulous people. I mean, while I'm in the data side of the things, I work with a lot of people who do those service control policies that allow me to limit what is being put out there in those different accounts and saying, hey, we really don't want you to spin up these types of resources because it's going to cost you too much money.
You do have a lot of fabulous people, and one of them sitting in the audience right now.
Absolutely.
Marnie, right there.
Yes. I brought one of my awesome analysts. And, so you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us.
So real quick,
Yeah.
You talk about the initial wins build the confidence. Can you highlight one particular initial win that got you sort of going down that road?
Absolutely. I think one of our key wins that we had was, and you'll see a little bit later, is the dashboards. We went from large Excel files to live data. And those live data really helped the business units understand their trends. So I could go down automatically from a monthly view down to a daily view, even down to an hourly view with just a click of a button within our platform. And that allowed a lot of trust within the businesses to now say, because guess what happened? I got anomaly detection. And we started to build off of those anomaly detections and being able to communicate that out to those different businesses.
Fantastic.
So as far, we're going to move into that next phase of what goes on with the triathlon. And as you can see, there's a big hill in front of us. And that's really what FinOps is about. It's an endurance race. It's not just about trying to get, while it is quick about those quick wins, but it is something that you do have to foster. I use a lot of it, and I use a lot of comparison to it, is that tenacity that you have to have within the FinOps practice. It's about looking things in different lenses. What may work for one business unit may not work for that other business unit. And so you have to be able to be tenacious as well as being flexible, because there's a lot of different challenges, a lot of different variabilities that do happen within the FinOps practice that you have to be able to be nimble against, and being able to adapt and being able to adjust, because everybody's heard it all week or all the last couple of days, Gen AI, and how that is going to impact us in the future. Because it's the one thing I took away from JR's talk yesterday, because there are two factors. It's how we can use FinOps for AI, and how we have to optimize for Gen AI in the future.
Yeah, I imagine it's a little bit like the triathlon. As you're going through it, the weather might be nice when you're starting out, but then, throughout the day, perhaps, rain, wind, change of direction, and being able to adapt to that's got to be relatively similar.
Yeah, and there's just so many adaptabilities, because it's, like I said, we have 400 companies that build up, what is Hearst. And I have to really be able to be a lot more adaptable to my health division compared to what I have to deal with my magazines division. And that makes a difference. And being able for us, our flexibility and creating reports that help them make good business decisions is key for us to have that going forward. So this is our cost optimization model. It seems simple. It's not much, from a view, but again, you can see that stair step. It goes back to that endurance. But it's not, even though it keeps moving up, it's also a circle too, because we are also, constantly planning. We're doing our execution as well as measuring and then optimizing. It's how can we be better as practitioners? And it goes back into, oh no. Don't steal my thunder. And a lot of this goes back to is one of the examples that I have is that planning is last year. One of the big milestones is we're a multi-cloud organization, so we've got spend in all 3 clouds. How many of you are AWS users? All right. How many of you have looked at your duplicate cloud trail spend? Have you looked at that? All right. How many of you guys have struggled to get that cost down? All right. We had that same thing here. So I had to take a lot of what we did with our duplicate cloud trails, and I had to go to each of the different individual business units and work with them and be able to then go, hey, do we need both trails? Because you really have to go, really, do you need both management events in there? Because that's really what is causing that duplication in most cases. Well, we were able to reduce our cloud, and it took me, trust me, goes back to that word tenacity, 6 months for me to actually incorporate, work with each of the business units, get the buy-off, have several meetings of why do we need to have these trails, and I reduced my duplicate cloud trail by 75%. So, yeah, and that was this huge, huge win for me. That was like, I really went back to 2021 when I did one of my Ironmans. It was 105 degrees, and I'm on a bike, and I'm climbing a hill, and my legs cramped up. But I made it through. And that's really what it is about. It's about taking those opportunities and really working with those businesses. Again, I can't say the word enough, being tenacious.
Did you find as you were going through the process with all the different groups that you were engaging with on that particular process, that did it get easier near the end because you could reference the multitude of other business units who have gone through it,
Absolutely.
So overcoming the
Yep.
trust and the risk portion?
Yeah, and that's what we do. What I do in one business, I can certainly share saying, hey, we did this over here. Maybe you guys would be interested in this. And that's the great thing about what we have within our organization is we can share. And I will bring in experts from each of the different business units and be able to say, hey, I can bring in this person. I may not be the most technical person, but I will bring in the person that can give you that technical expertise. So from an implementation perspective, these were our wins. Remember back in a couple of slides ago where we did not have, we had these large Excel files. Well, we moved into being able to have everything in that live data. Like I said, we were able to kind of now be able to drill into that. Secondly, I had those users. They were like, well, we don't want to talk to her. we'll listen to her maybe, but really didn't want to. Now I had these great dashboards, and that increased our actual user input and our actual ability to get people access into our dashboards by tenfold. I mean, it was 5% increased users, but I have well over 200 users now within our platform, which I think when I started were like 30. So this was a huge improvement. And then, of course, my gold star right in the middle was our savings. Because of that and be able to have those dashboards, now I could get those business units to actually action things. Whether that was purchasing a reservation against some commitment against one of their databases, or actually getting them, I'm not opposed to beg, steal, barter with a business unit to say, why do you have your unattached volumes? You've been out there since 2020, get rid of them. And we could see that directly within our platform and being able to get them to actually at times action it right there during our business unit meetings. And that moves us onto that next phase. We've completed 2 elements of a triathlon, and now we're on that run. And this is, a model that we use with our cost management tool. But as you can see is that there's nothing that really tells you where we are within Hearst as a whole. And that's because we're always evolving. We are constantly changing. We're constantly looking for new ways to innovate, whether that is within that visibility, whether that's within optimization, within those governance tools, as well as just business integration. Because it's really key for us within our environment itself is to constantly grow. As you can say, I'm an endurance athlete. I will do a triathlon. I mean, I've done 7 full triathlons, but I'm constantly looking. I get across the finish line, and the first thing I want to do is, what can I do next? What can I do better? And we're very Jira integrated within our system ourselves, so we do 2-week sprints constantly of looking for new opportunities. But in that time, we have regular business unit meetings that we're meeting with the business units, looking at our trends, looking at those opportunities, and really helping them get to the, a finished state on an optimization recommendation.
So another part of the run, if you think about it, right, if you think about inform, and then you think about optimize, and then when you get to that operate phase, right, it's really the culmination of the information that you presented, the data that has driven the recommendations, and then a solution that allows you to take action directly in the platform. So at Vega, we have a enterprise scheduling solution. It's intuitive, drag and drop, multi-cloud, multiple resource types, and then it tracks the savings. So you circle back in the loop and you continue to move along the way. If you'd like to find out more about that, you can see us in booth G7, which oddly enough, none of the booths have numbers, after the thing. And now we're going to go back to Carolyn because she's fascinating.
But that's what it is. I mean, because as you can see, I'm using multiple tools within here. But with those multiple tools, as you can see with every triathlon, and Willy can attest, he's been there for one of my triathlons. He's cheered me on. This is some of the things that some of our business units have actually given back to us of how we are doing within our FinOps practice. The one I want to really highlight here is the one from our newspapers group. So newspapers, difficult business units, not them themselves being difficult, but they're in a difficult situations because print is not as important as it used to be. Everything's moving to digital. And having to work with them to optimize and make them as streamlined as possible, it was very key for them to be able to get their cost down to actually the host. And that's not just the host cost, but that's the cost associated with the volumes, the snapshots, the load balancers, anything that's incorporated with that EC2 instance was important for them. And to be able to give them a report that allowed them to see that spend and go, oh, we didn't realize that instant was still running. We need to get that shut down. And that was really key. And as you can see with some of the other, support comments that we've had over the last year and a half that I've started, I mean, it's been very impactful within our organization.
And so the one time I went and watched her in a triathlon, right, she was a good way through, and you can see the people and the athletes are running by and they're just very focused, you know, they're drained a lot. When Carolyn came by, we said hi, she saw us, and immediately this huge smile. I was like, how can you be smiling like that in the middle of this? You know, so she really does love it.
I do. I mean, and that's where it kind of comes across to that finish line. And just like JR said yesterday, even though there is no finish in FinOps, it really is important to continue to move that finish line and to build on that finish line and look for that next finish line that you can adapt to. So some of our best practices that we do within our FinOps practice are the following. So it's important for us to have our leadership buy-in. I mean, that is key first and foremost. Not only as Hearst, as where it is associated with our CCOE department, it's about the leadership within each of those different businesses. Getting them to have that buy-in helps us improve and accelerate our cost optimization journey.
And I can echo that 100%. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's the one thing that you see when there is a lack of leadership alignment. It really makes it hard for the internal FinOps teams to even remotely achieve the success that they're dying to deliver without that. And I think, you know, the nice thing is I've seen this in 4 or 5 just brief presentations I've walked by. It is an absolute theme.
Yep, absolutely. And then also create business value. I mean, that is really key also, because if you can create that value, that's important for that actual division, department, or business unit in of itself. Because if you can create that value for them, then they will buy into what you have to offer. Because that's where you have to be that nimble. You have to be able to relate to what their struggles are and what is going on within their environment in order for them to be successful and achieve what you want them to. As well as we're constantly doing the walk, crawl, run. And we're constantly looking at new opportunities. I mean, Gen AI is scaring the crap out of me right now just because of the fact that there's so much unknown. I mean, I look at it from a cost perspective. I've got several of my businesses that are really very much involved in doing some POCs with their Gen AI platform, as well as within my own department, and how that's all going to relate. I mean, and so we're constantly moving from that crawl state to that walk phase, as well as just helping build the confidence within our business units on what we have to offer.
Yeah, I think a little bit about that is like, right, celebrate the little victories. A lot of times we're working on massive projects that you're going through, but there are those little victories along the way. I'm going to put you on the spot here for a minute.
Okay.
So think about your triathlon in your training, and how would you think about, you know, celebrating little victories in your process and your evolution?
So that's a good question. I mean, and for me, it's about always not only looking forward, but looking backwards at what you've accomplished and where you're going. For me, I look at it is, and I'll relate it a lot to my triathlon, is I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I'm always looking for opportunities where I can be better. I've done 7 Ironmans, and I was 1 slot away from getting to Kona. I mean, so it was a, you know, but it was that opportunity where I could look at it. And that's what I kind of put into my FinOps practice, is that opportunity, that win that can help us. We have monthly business unit meetings that really help reflect and be able to give that insightfulness within the business unit. But what I do to my health division compared to what I do with my magazine divisions, it's a totally different conversation. And that has been key for us to be able to, you know, be flexible from that perspective and learn. And lastly, it's about our team members. We're small, you know. I'm myself and 2 analysts is all that make up our FinOps practice. Remember, we're 400 companies, but we rely a lot on, you know, we have a tool from Vega, we have our cost optimization tool, as well as some of the other engineers within our CCOE group itself. I have cloud engineers that can help develop, can be able to help automate, as well as just leaning on the expertise that we have out there. And that's really key, you know, having those team members and being able to build upon what we have out there has really been key for us. I mean, and having, again, it goes back to that leadership. My boss, my director itself has a lot of belief and a lot of confidence in what we have to offer, as well as our whole organization. And it's been very key for us to see our success grow and be able to build upon it each and every month. It's constantly changing. I mean, I look at where I was a year ago to where I am today. It's an evolution.
Yeah, interesting point there, because I've typically thought about how does FinOps evolve over time, right? And it has been evolving. I was in a conversation with JR, and he's like, well, that's great, but what we really need to be thinking about is, instead of evolving, is how do we integrate, right? And that's what you just described, is you've taken this small team, right? So you've got a constrained resource, and how do you maximize that constrained resource? And you hit the nail on the head. It's about integrating with the individual team so you can get that power that you need.
Absolutely.
Look at that.
Look at that.
All right.
We got 8 minutes.
We made it.
Fantastic.
We do. We have about 8 minutes for questions. Who wants to kick us off here? All right. I do. I don't have great success with the box. You really have to hold it close, and it never works out well.
Thank you very much. That was a fantastic presentation, Carolyn, and congratulations on all of your Ironmans. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I think I heard you right. You touched a little bit on sprints. So we're actually working with agile methodologies too at our firm, and we're just starting off with that. I'm curious to know, did that take some persuasion? How is that working for you? Are there challenges when you kicked off? And is that kind of a nice, well-oiled machine now to use those sprints to get folks to incorporate the optimization?
Yeah, great question. I mean, and when we first started off, we'll just say our sprints were a little bit weak, but we have built momentum. We meet every other week where we're actually going through our backlog. We'll say my other analysts today got barraged with all those GCP announcements that happened today. I'm like, we need to put this in our backlog. Can you put this in our backlog? Oh, we need to test that. I mean, those are the things that we build upon. We're a little bit time constrained at times because we do have 2 weeks where we're doing our business unit meetings. We have well over 30 meetings that we do every month within each of our business units. So we have really about 2 weeks to kind of do our sprint planning and execute that. There's some overlap because we do every 2 weeks. Sometimes our sprints are a little bit weaker, but sometimes they are jam-packed, and we're trying to get as much done as we can within those 2 weeks. But it's been successful. I've enjoyed doing sprints because, as you can see, I'm a very disciplined person. Having that structure, having those goals in mind, and being able to achieve those has really made us, I think, expand our FinOps practice.
Well said.
Next question. All right.
Yeah, I was just curious about how your sprints tally up or match up with your triathlons. No, that's just a joke. So have you ever conducted assessments within your business organizations or anything? And if you have, then can you talk to us about the path that you took, the number of days that it typically takes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure I completely caught everything he said.
Yeah. Can you?
Oh, sure. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Have you done assessments, like FinOps maturity assessments, within your business organizations?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're actually building that out right now. I mean, one of our goals in the future is we get a lot of questions where they say, well, how do we compare against this company? Or how do we compare that? So we're building out a whole actual dashboard that's going to go through all our KPIs of how much coverage they have within their reservation, how much their ESR is. Those are the types of things that we're working on right now to actually expand, because we get a lot of those kind of questions, to be able to provide a little bit different insight and be able to go, oh, look how much graviton do they have over here, and this company's, still on an M3. Those kinds of things have helped, I think, accelerate some of that movement within some of these business units, especially those that have been in the cloud for an extended period of time.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Competitive benchmarking can be a very powerful tool
Absolutely.
inside of an organization.
Yeah, I was just gonna say-
Because nobody wants to be the laggard.
Yep.
Yeah, you have a great advantage there. Not everybody can benchmark within their own organization.
Yeah. Yep.
Do we have another question?
Hi, thanks a lot for the presentation. I really liked your second point on the best practices slide around focusing on business value creation. Can you talk a little bit about some ways that you measure, some examples that you've seen?
Absolutely. So one of the businesses, I mean, I can take the example I did for newspapers of being able to look at how we can drive some of that cost down. But the other thing is we're in a very exciting year. We've got the Olympics, we've got an election, and we've got, what's the third one? The Olympics and elections, we'll just say that. So I've got magazines, I've got television, and I've got newspapers that are all gonna be hype on this. So business value, it's gonna be a really great year this year. What's gonna happen next year? Because now those are gonna be turned down because we're not gonna have that. So we're incorporating those types of things. So we're really trying to incentivize those companies to actually reduce their spend this month to help them carry it through next month. So it's those business goals. We're very involved also from a forecasting perspective. We work very hand in hand with our finance team. And it's important for us to be able there because what they're forecasting, I am presenting out. And we are able to then handle those business needs and those, we'll say sometimes those hard economic times to make them get through and really achieve what they need to.
Hello, Carolyn, Z, and Willy. I hear you talk about your very decentralized world that you live in, and a team of 2 or 3, which is maybe 1 or 2 bigger than my team, and very decentralized. How do you successfully go and chase, like using the cloud trail as an example, right? Those, in our parlance, those are a bunch of nickels. Got lots and lots of nickels, and it's worth a nickel to that guy, and worth a nickel to that guy, and worth a nickel to that guy. And it's hard to sell that, and coordinate that, and administer that. How do you get around collecting those nickels and pulling it all off? I mean, it's not gonna make $1 until you get 20 of them. Is that a struggle? Especially, it's a struggle for 2 reasons. Is it a struggle because, one, you're so decentralized, and or because, boy, I'm a team of 3?
You know, it's interesting you say that because we actually had a recent conversation on that because I struggle with that because unattached volumes is another one that we struggle quite a bit with. And again, this business unit here has got $5, this one's got $25 and everything like that. But I use them against each other of going, hey, we really need to, I mean, why do you have these out here? Some of them are for good reasons, but I'm able to leverage as a whole going, because we are one company, I can leverage getting them to actually action those because I'm able to then say, just because you're not willing to shut these volumes off, it doesn't mean that you're not willing to save it for our corporation. And so I'm able to use some of the leverage that I do is to kind of look at the whole means versus just looking at it as an entity. One of the business units, and Marnie can attest, she's fighting this exact issue right now because one of our health divisions is in this exact boat. They have 50 unattached volumes that have been out there, a little bit higher than that, she's saying. And we're actually trying to leverage to say, hey, just because you don't want to actually action them right now, but we really want you to save it for the in the long run. And we're making headway. We probably reduced our unattached volumes in half because we were able to kind of use this model against, kind of just a little push and guilt. Yeah. I mean, really, I remember an instance at Christmas time, and it's one of my transportation divisions, and I was like, guys, these volumes have been out here forever. Can you give me a Christmas present and let's just get rid of them? And it worked. I mean, and sometimes it is literally about, and it's that tenacity. It's the barraging. It's the constant, don't let it go. I am a bulldog when it comes to those types of things. And trust me, the squeaky wheel does win once in a while.
I would also say just one last note on that. Another way that you can do that, because that's a challenge across the board, is try to figure out how you can appeal to their sense of humanity to some extent. And what I mean is, especially in economic times when there is pressure on trying to save money, the first place large enterprises often go is with people. So if you can say, hey, look, if you do this and you do this and you do this, you could save a job. And that job might be the person sitting next to you, right? You get them to understand that they're part of a sort of a bigger ecosystem and dynamic, and just try to find those creative ways. Doesn't work for everybody, but just keep hammering. Like she says, tenacity. You're like, okay, that didn't work. Well, let me take this approach. Well, that didn't work. Let me try a third one. And you'll find one that does.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. One of the metrics that you guys mentioned was 30% increase in your dashboard usage, I believe.
Yep.
I'm wondering, what metrics are you using for that user adoption, and what have you found that helps drive that user adoption up?
So a lot of that was really key to our dashboards themselves. I mean, so you give people data, and they actually can run on that. And that really was one of the key things, because now they're able to get down to really understanding their trends of looking at, oh crap, I mean, last year we had a cloud trail that, it wasn't a cloud, it was a CloudWatch event that, of a Kubernetes cluster that went rogue, and $30,000 later, that hit our spend. But we were able to adopt that because we actually had the reporting in the system that we caught it. Those people are now going, oh, they have this great tool. We can catch these kind of things. And then that just momentum, it was like my financial group was one of those groups that I actually talked to the leadership in that group and saying, hey, I get a lot of movement with you being in that meetings, and that financial group now is 4 separate meetings and I've doubled the people that are in our platform because I got leadership buy-in, and he pushed it down the stream, and then I was able to then incorporate elements that related to them to be able to bring those reporting elements back to them that were key to them. And that's really what it is. And it goes really back to that, understand who your audience is. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm back again over here.
Okay.
So can you share some details of how you created your dashboard? Like, did you use a third-party tool, or did you come up with tools in your organization?
Absolutely. So I do have a third-party tool that does most of my dashboarding out, but it's not perfect. Just like we've all heard, not every tool can accommodate those. But we're able to pull things out of that, and I create supplementary reports outside. We use Power BI. I use stuff from the Kudos dashboard. I use a lot of different things that we're pulling into other elements. As you can see, I'm not just a one platform, one-stop shop within our organization. And that really makes a difference, because you have to find those things that work best for you. And having those dashboards and working with those cost management tools to help them innovate to stuff that can help us. And that's really key, because I also do it with our cloud vendors as well as our cost management tool. Willy can attest my barrage of, we need this, we need that. Yeah. And that's really, you work hand in hand with each of those different vendors so there's usually a solution out there. You just have to find the solution that will work for you.
One more right there.
Okay, I'm back again too.
Yeah.
Just building on that, it would be awesome if it was a copy paste for each business unit for dashboards, right? But it sounds to me like you've actually kind of custom dashboards for each business unit. What did that take? Do they look a lot different? And did you get collaboration from the business unit to say, this is what we need, this is what we want?
Yeah, so I built out a template, an initial template that just kind of rolled out our key components that we wanted to share with the business units. And then when we started rolling out our monthly meetings, it was working with them and then all of a sudden this business unit said, hey, I need more information on my data egress. It's going to be one of our biggest costs. I want to be able to have some reports on data egress. Or I want to look at my costs for DynamoDB because we're going to be having a lot of read writes that are going on. We need to be able to monitor that, as well as being able to do it all the way down. I mean, I'll be in a business unit meeting and they're like, hey, I need to see my hourly data for SageMaker and understand that. And so then we build out a report. A lot of the reports that we do, when I build in one, all of a sudden now business unit B over here wants that same report. It's literally just move it over into their organization and then they have that report hand in hand. So it's really leveraging a lot of what each of the different entities and working with those business units. Because that's really been key to us is, you know, I had a foundation and then I built upon that foundation. But it really was key to really understand what your businesses need and work with it and be flexible, be adaptable, because it really has made a difference for us.
Anyone else with another question? Great questions.
Yeah.
All right, I think you guys might be off the hook now. Please
All right.
give Willy and Carolyn
Thank
a
you,
warm
guys.
round of applause.
Well done. Awesome.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X 2024 content on our YouTube channel on the 2024 playlist. Support our channel by liking, subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and by leaving comments and questions for our speakers. We appreciate your support.